Hey guys, this is Voxide bringing you another tutorial. In this tutorial we take a look at creating an elegant intro for your logo or your text. In case you want to check out this exact project file, you can follow the download link in the description of this video. So feel free to use this intro for your projects or your videos, and let's get started. So let's make a new composition. Doesn't matter what you name it. I'm gonna use 1080p, 10 seconds, frame rate of 30, hit OK. Just as a heads up, I will be using my script for this, so Hud Toolkit. You can find this by following the link in the description of this video. It's free to use and it's very easy to install. And you can also run the script after you download the script. You can run it from Files, Script, Run Script File, and then just go to wherever you've downloaded it. But I will be using the window method just so I can then dock this panel over here to the right, because we're going to be using this a bit. Alright, let's start off by making a new layer, a new solid. So I will just grab a solid, name it background. I will add effect, generate ramp to this. Let's just set up this ramp. Use a pale blue and maybe sort of like a warm white. And you can use whatever colors you want. So now we can make a floor. We'll make a new solid, name it floor, and I'll apply a ramp to this. And for my first start color, I will use sort of like an orange. And then for my end color, I'm gonna use white. I'm gonna leave it at white, and then I will set this to be radial. And I'll just switch my points around. And I will set this to multiply. And then if I press F4 and make this into a 3D layer, I can flip it on the X-axis and then I can drop it down. So you can kind of see, if I scale this, we're kind of creating a floor over here. Now we can make our text layer. So I will select the text tool and I will name this your website name, something wide that fits sort of the whole width of the composition. Color doesn't matter for this, and I'm using code bold as font. And with my layer selected, just make sure that your font, your text, or whatever you're using is sort of matching the size of your composition. So I will just maybe make this a little larger, and I will snap it to center by holding Ctrl and Shift while moving the layer around. You can see it snaps to the center. And I will pre-compose this, so Ctrl Shift C with having the layer selected, and I will name this holder. And what I want to do now is, if I go to my HUD Toolkit, if I go to my grid tab, I can set up some grid size over here. So I will use 15 because I want to have 15 vertical pieces, and I want to have only one horizontal piece. So now if I set up 15 and 1 and click create, you can see it sort of splits our layer into 15 vertical pieces. So I can grab each one of these layers around, and you can create all sorts of effect for this. Actually, I will undo this and I will use 25 pieces because I want this to be just a little thinner. So create, and now I have sort of like thinner pieces. Alright, now with all of my layers selected, I can select all my layers and I will press Ctrl Shift C, and I will name this pre-comp. Let's name this holder split. And now if I turn on if I make this a 3D layer and I collapse transformation, now it's actually taking all of the values from each a layer individually, and it applies it to just one holder comp. And I'll show you what this means in a second. So if I access my holder split comp that we've just created, here we have all of our split layers, and I can grab all of these layers. I will press R for rotation, and I want to animate these layers on the, let's see, on the X axis. So I will set a keyframe for my X rotation at 1 second for 0, and if I go to my beginning of my timeline and second 0, I can set the keyframe for 90, and now you can see we've just created a simple rotation animation. But what's important to note here is that each layer contains this rotation. So what I can do now is, if I select all of my layers and I go to my scene tab over here, I can then sequence my layers and offset all of these animations. So I will select all my layers, I will choose 3 frames for this, and if I press sequence layers, now you can see we're sort of offsetting all the layers and all of the animations. And actually I will undo this, and I want to select all my keyframes for rotation. I forgot to do this step, so I will just select all my keyframes and just press F9 so we can have some smoothness in our animation. So now I can go to sequence layer with 3 frames, hit sequence, and then you can see we're creating sort of this offset animation. And all of the information here will actually transfer to my original layer, as you can see, which is great. So now let's add a camera. I will use a camera setup over here, which just creates an orbiting camera. If I go to my custom view, you can see it just creates a target object right in the center of our sphere. And if I edit some of the values over here, you can see the camera just orbits in the center of the scene. So now that I have my camera, I can go to active camera, and I want the camera animation to end at around second 3. So I will set a keyframe for rotation Y at second 3, and then go to the beginning, and I will actually set a keyframe for, let's say, 90 degrees. So now it sort of starts from the side and returns to its original value at the 3 mark second. So let's actually adjust the position Z value, and let's actually go to my orbit cam, and I will go to layer camera settings, and I want to set the angle of view maybe to 75 to just this just gives it a wider lens and creates some distortions, which just provides an overall better result. So now you can see what's going on, and we're starting to get closer to our original look. Let's see how we can now create some interesting reflections. So now on my original holder split layer, I can just Ctrl D for duplicate, and this new layer I will set, actually I will use the layer below it, and I will also flip this vertically, and I will drop this sort of to match our floor. And now if I go to my scale settings, so I'll press S, I don't want uniform scale, and I actually, if you take a look over here, you can see it's sort of creating this 3D effect, and I actually don't want this. I want this to be completely flat. So what I can do with this is go to my Z value, which is the third value over here, and I will set this to be 1, and this will just flatten out our layer. And I can actually increase my second value for scale over here, just so we can make this a little taller. And now I can go to effect, generate. I will use a fill, and I will set this to be sort of like a blue, maybe a dark desaturated blue. And I will go to effect and also add a add a fast blur to this, and just blur this slightly. And if I press F4 and set this to multiply, and then press T for opacity, and I will set this to be maybe 35%. So maybe something like this, right? Now let's see how we can fake some reflections over this top layer over here. So with my layer selected, I will Ctrl D to create a duplicate. I will set this to not be visible for now, and I want to add a new solid, and I will name this reflections. And for this I want to add a generate effect, let's see, grid. And if I solo this layer, now I can go to my grid settings, and I will select invert grid, and let's actually adjust this grid a bit, and let's increase the border. And now I can add a fast blur, just create some blurry reflections. And actually I want to select my rotation, and I want to rotate this a bit to create an interesting, more interesting effect. And for position, so P, I will set a keyframe at the beginning of the timeline. I will go to the end of the timeline, and I will set, I will just sort of drag this a bit, just so we create some animation for our reflection layer. So now with this reflection layer, what I can do is I will put this below our new duplicate of my holder split layer, and I will add an effect, generate ramp. And if I take a look at this layer, I want the ramp sort of to begin at right below our text, and just adjust the points a bit, so our reflection layer will look at the sort of the white and black value of this layer to sort of map the opacity over it. So now if I unsolo this, and I will set the reflections to be luma matte of my holder split layer, you can see now it just maps over our original layer. So this is what we create. We can also adjust the grid now, and let's make some adjustments over here. So not this, maybe make this just a little smaller. Just get some interesting effects over here. So maybe something like this. And I will set this to be screen. And for my original layer, so this will be my main layer that actually contains all of my text, I will add the ramp to this. And let's just use some nice colors over here. Let's use my end color, set this to be sort of like a darkish blue maybe, and I will adjust the position of my black value, and what we end up with, something that looks like this. And I can set this reflection layer to be maybe something a little less, so it's not that noticeable. So this is how I created this look. Go ahead and check out the original project file to see maybe if I missed anything. And that's it for this tutorial. Hope you learned something new, hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more tutorials, and I'm out.